We have many fence line communities here in District I near these chemical plants, and these air monitors are going to be, of course, monitoring the air in regards to cancer pollutants that are in the air. So I want to thank everyone. I know that Dr. Hopkins came to my office about 2 years ago or so to discuss the grant to trying to secure these air monitors, and excited to know that we were successful. $500,000 grant for several monitors, and talking to Dr. Hopkins, it's not just going to be monitors that are in place. They may be also monitors that will be used to be driving around, which are very important, because as you know, in the media, many of these chemical plants are a little hesitant to let for the air monitors to monitor their operations. But with these monitors that are going to be driving around, we'll be able to take a closer look and to make sure that the air in the area is good air and not cancer-causing pollutants. So again, we're excited about this. If I could, I'd like to have Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia come up and make some remarks.
Thank you, Council Member, and it's always great to be in your district, and being here reminds me of all the good fights that we had to make sure that we had this botanical garden, not only here for Houston, but for it to be right here in the heart of the East End. I remember more than one town hall meeting on that issue. So the fight continues, not only for making sure that we have lovely settings like this for everyone to enjoy, but more important, to make sure that everyone can have their pretty space like this at home. I first want to thank Dr. Hopkins, in the Health Department for being here, and of course the EPA Administrator, Dr. Nancy. You'll hear from both of them later. But today we're here one step closer to getting a better public health. Clean water is a human right. Clean air is a human right. They are both an outcome and a predictor of poverty here in my district. They are both important to improve the quality of life and to extend our community's average lifespan. And so we must prioritize a clean and healthy environment first and foremost. The needs of my district are multifaceted, but we take one issue at a time. Today we are prioritizing air quality improvement measures, educating our community about environmentally healthy living, and investing in sustainable solutions. It's frankly about being a good neighbor. My district, as many of you know, is majority Latino community. We garden outside on weekends, we celebrate holidays in the backyard with family, and we play outside at recess. Many of my neighbors work outside every day in construction, at the plants, on rooftops, and on the roads. And long-term health effects are felt deepest here in this predominantly Latino community. When the air is filled with harmful toxins, the outdoor workers are the ones who suffer the most. Federal funding towards clean air is the only way to improve healthy living and increase the life expectancy of our community. Our president and our colleagues in Congress are investing in America to put our federal dollars where they matter most, in the communities where the vulnerable populations live, in the communities that are hit first and hardest. We're investing in air quality monitoring to make our communities safer and healthier across the nation and here in Houston. Schools, grassroots organizations, neighborhood groups, and local community advocates will see this funding that is necessary to make clean air and clear water achievable goals in my district. Since my time as city controller, I've invested in our environment time and time again. And also, whether at the county or at the state, I've invested money into clean air and water, and I will always continue to do that in Congress. I believe that our federal dollars should go to those most in need, the most vulnerable communities. by joining us here today, all the groups represented, all the community members represented, all our group neighbors, shows me that you agree that a healthy environment is a priority for all of us. We are listening in Congress. The president is listening. Our EPA administrator is listening, and we will make change one step at a time. Thank you all for being here. Next, I'd like to give a few minutes to my colleague who's been there with us every step of the way on issues related to the environment and clean air and water, to make sure that all our communities across the nation, and particularly here in our region, get their human right of clean air and clean water. Congressman Al Green.
Thank you very much, everyone, and I greatly appreciate the very warm reception I've received. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be in the district with Congresswoman Garcia. She came to Congress well equipped to do the job, and she has done an outstanding job since her arrival. I do believe her work, not only here in Houston, but also her work in Congress, would merit that we give her a very special expression of appreciation for a job well done. Would you join me, please? And to Councilmember Gallegos, thank you so much. I understand this is your council district. Thank you for your welcome as well and the reception that I'm receiving. Friends, I'm going to try to be pithy and concise, but on some issues it's difficult to be terse and laconic, so this may be one. Friends, without question, reservation, or hesitation, these tax dollars should be spent on these projects. These tax dollars are coming to places where they are much needed. I'm going to give you one such example. Over 100 years ago, Sunnyside was a thriving community. Businesses were available to persons. It was a growing, productive community of color. Unfortunately, the city of Houston needed landfills. They located a landfill in Sunnyside, another landfill in Sunnyside, and then following the landfills came the rock crushing companies. Rock crushing companies, landfills, and all of this then necessitated trucks that were carrying large loads. The streets were not load zoned such that they would not get the trucks on them, and as a result, the streets needed repairs. As a result of these things coming together, we found that the property values in Sunnyside did not escalate to the same extent that they did in other areas of the city. Sunnyside became a dumping ground. When your community becomes a dumping ground, people don't want to buy property in that community at a premium price. The price for property not only did not escalate, in some places it went down because of Sunnyside being perceived as a dumping ground. These tax dollars are going to help. There is something called a Sunnyside solar farm that is being constructed with the good offices of the city of Houston. The mayor and I have worked together. Some $750,000 will be placed in this Sunnyside solar farm, which is on a former dump, a former landfill. Dump seems to be more appropriate to me, to be quite honest. $750,000. That money came to that landfill not because I, personal pronoun, was able to get it done, but because we, working together, were able to get it done. No member of Congress does it by himself or herself. It is by working together, and I have a good partner in Congresswoman Garcia to get these kinds of things done. So Sunnyside needs to have this opportunity to rejuvenate, to be revived, become the vibrant community that it once was and that it can be again. But it can only happen if we can have projects such as this so that we can understand the quality of the air in Sunnyside, so that people can make sure that their health care needs are being properly met. They have to be addressed because they are the health care needs not only just of Sunnyside, but of our entire Houston community. We can't conclude that because there's more sickness in one area of town, we should just move to another area of town. Whatever impacts one directly impacts all indirectly. So we want to make sure that they get good health care in the Sunnyside area. And finally this, I said I would be as pithy as possible, so I've done as best as I can, but I have to give this final closing statement, dear friends. This, friends, is the genesis of what should come. I don't know what will, but it's the genesis of what should come. We should have better health care, not only for Sunnyside, but for all sides of Houston. Health care is something that we should have as a universal right simply because we are human beings. We cannot allow landfills, rock crushing companies, trucks that are carrying these large loads, and all sorts of other things to happen when you have these three things occurring, meaning people will say, well, Sunnyside is where our landfill is. Let's go over and just take our trash and dump it on the streets of Sunnyside. That's what happened. It became a trash collection point for other parts of the city. And Sunnyside is not the only place, by the way, but it's the one that I'm representing. I know that Congresswoman Garcia can speak of similar circumstances. But we can't allow Sunnyside to become an island unto itself. Healthcare is important for all of us. And this is the richest country in the world. If we can provide healthcare to a mortal combatant, when we're engaged in combat with you, if we should wound you, we'll give you aid and comfort. If you rob a bank and we should wound you, we'll give you aid and comfort. If we can give aid and comfort to people that are fighting us in mortal combat and people who are engaged in robbing banks, we can give it to hard-working Americans who happen to live in areas where we've decided to make them dumping grounds. It's time to revive and rejuvenate Sunnyside and other areas of the town that are similarly situated. Now, as I leave, I want you to know that the mayor of the city has worked closely with us. I'm proud of what Judge Lina Hidalgo has done as well. I regret that I cannot say that to her personally today, but I shall let her know in the future. And I'm proud that the mayor has worked to help us get this grant, some $500,000, $498,982, but that's $500. If it's not, I'll donate the rest and make it $500. It should be $500. So let's again give Congresswoman Garcia a big expression of appreciation for what she's done. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Congresswoman Lee, did you want to say a few words?
Thank you very much. Let me express my appreciation to Congresswoman Garcia, Councilmember Gallegos, and Congressman Green, and to see that we have the opportunity to work together, and certainly to acknowledge Dr. Nance for her leadership and as well her spirited support for this part of her region, Region 6. Let me also acknowledge our EPA administrator who has been a bright light in this region and representing parts of this grant of $499,982 and representing the Fifth Ward area that has been really attacked by cancer clusters, so much so that we are continuing to work. We could not have come this far without the Environmental Protection Agency. We understand, as all of us, Congresswoman Garcia, Councilman Gallegos, Congressman Green, have been working on the toxic contamination of our neighborhoods to be able to fight to give people a real quality of life. We've been crushed by climate change. We've been crushed by the continuous three-digit heat that we've experienced. We're watching climate change across the nation. In places that never flooded, people have died in places like Connecticut and Northeast, where there have been flooding that they've never seen. To have this grant, to be able to address monitoring, which Pleasantville, for example, initiated their own monitoring with a collaboration with a nonprofit. That's how bad the air was. And so to be able to have the federal government as a real partner in this, in helping the neighborhoods of Fifth Ward, Galena Park, Pleasantville, Sunnyside, and to be able to deal with the toxic aspects of benzene, 1.3 butadiene, formaldehyde, ethylene oxide, All of these pose a serious risk, and as we have seen in our communities, that is why we collaboratively work together. We are prone to respiratory illnesses, particularly asthma for children, and certainly COPD has other origins, but just imagine people, and in the heat, not having air conditioning in some cases. We've been working to give people air conditioners, but to be able to get this grant to be on the ground is a breath of fresh air for all of us. So let me thank again Dr. Earthia Nance, Dr. Lauren Hopkins of the City of Houston Health Department, who we work together on the cancer clusters, and my colleague, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, whose district we're in, Councilmember Gallegos. I think we may be near or in your district.
In my district.
Yep.
In the district.
And of course, this wonderful, thank you for this Houston Botanic Garden. Well, I just have to clap for that. Thank you all for that. Thank you so very much. I know now where to book my vacation. I thought I had to go somewhere, but I know now. I knew you were doing it. I knew you were working on it. And now I have the opportunity of booking my vacation here. And let me also thank, did I mention Dr. Laura Hopkins of HHD. So again, what a powerful moment to have this grant and to see us all here working together. Let's breathe, breathe, breathe as we find our space to have clean air for people who deserve a best and better quality of life. Thank you so very much.
Okay. I just want to make one additional comment with all of the thank yous. I think that we should remember that President Joe Biden is at the helm. And it's President Joe Biden that sees these issues as issues of importance, not only for this area, but for our country. So I want to thank the administrators who are here, but let's give President Joe Biden an expression of appreciation for what he's doing. Thank you very much.
And we're not going to forget that you're donating the difference to make the
I am.
500,000.
I
So Dr. Hopkins, you make note of that, right? And we know where to find them. So if you would come up and
we'll have Joe Biden call him up for the money.
So yeah, we're going to take photos with the congressional members, the president check some positive remarks for a second, and we'll come back.
Okay, everyone can look this way right here at me. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
And we'll also have any our partners and local folks that want to come up and take photos as well, or congressional members. We'll have be around afterwards with the congressional members and all take photos with them so they can continue to understand those Nope. We're ready for me. We're being ready.
Okay, everyone can look right here. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
I also would like to recognize, I know we have Houston Air Alliance here, we have Healthy Ports, Healthy Communities also here, and various civic clubs. So thank y'all so much for being here and for being part of this as well. Thank y'all.
Sorry.
And this, please know that we, as I said earlier, we've been working on this for a long time, and we're not going to stop until we can actually brag about being the most monitored place in the country. If we have to do it, let's work on it. always tell the mayor that when I was city controller, my job was to watch the money. My job now is to bring the money. So Dr. Hopkins will bring you more. And working together with the administrator, I know we're going to do that, so let's hear from her next.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back in Houston, where I lived and still own a home. Let me first thank the Botanical Gardens for hosting us. Justin Lacey has been fantastic. Thank you for all your help, and we greatly appreciate you and the Gardens' hospitality. And thank you, Dr. Hopkins, and the Houston Health Department, and Representative Garcia, and your staff for working with my staff in coordinating this event. I'm excited to be with you all here this morning. Today we are celebrating EPA's roughly $500,000, that's $500,000, to Dr. Hopkins and the Houston Health Department for air quality monitoring in environmental justice communities. We're looking forward to seeing great results from this partnership with the Health Department and community groups as we target hazardous air pollutants like ethylene oxide and formaldehyde. We hope the project reaches everyone in the community so they can better understand what is in the air they breathe, which will help us reduce harmful air pollutants. The project's impacted communities have long been overburdened with air quality issues. Fence-line communities are a priority for this EPA, for Administrator Regan and for me. I meet with many of these communities often, and I'm looking forward to the success of this project. We know there are many other issues that these communities are dealing with, and we are working on them. But today, we're glad to provide some assistance with improving air quality. EPA is not the only federal partner represented here. President Biden, with support from Congress and leadership from Congresswoman Garcia, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and Congressman Green, continue to invest in America, passing generational bills like the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Thanks to the historic financial resources from the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act, EPA is funding more than double the number of community air projects across the country, including this one. We're thrilled that this project was selected through a nationally competitive process and that we're able to fund its implementation in this community. Empowering communities to gather quality data about the air they breathe will help ensure that dozens of overburdened communities have the tools they need to better understand air quality challenges in their neighborhood. And it will help us, the EPA, protect people from the dangers posed by air pollution. All people, regardless of the color of their skin, the community they live in, or the money in their pocket, deserve clean air, clean water, and the opportunity to lead a healthy life. At EPA, we are working every day to advance this mission and create cleaner and healthier communities for all. Thank you, and now I will turn it over to Dr. Hopkins.
Thank you. Yeah, talk so we can work on it. Okay, good. Yeah.
Short one hug too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The Houston Health Department is concerned about the unhealthy levels of cancer-causing hazardous air pollutants in the environmental justice communities of Meadowbrook, Allendale, Pecan Park, and Park Place. Specifically, we're concerned about the toxic air pollutants 1,3-butadiene, benzene, formaldehyde, and ethylene oxide. They are 4 of the top 5 pollutants of concern, cancer-causing pollutants, in this community according to EPA assessments. For 1,3-butadiene alone, the risk of cancer from air pollution in this area increased between 2014 and 2021 by 218%. These communities share fence lines with or are in close proximity to the largest emission sources of 1,3-butadiene in the city of Houston, the Texas Petrochemical Plant and Goodyear plants. Health Department analysis indicates that the highest hourly 1,3-butadiene concentrations are recorded when the 2 TCQ monitors that surround this area, the Milby monitor and the Chavez monitor, are downwind of this area. Cancer risk from benzene is also a concern. It's been identified as a top definite risk pollutant for the city of Houston. And the problem is benzene and 1,3-butadiene cause the same kind of cancer, leukemia. Formaldehyde and ethylene oxide, the other two pollutants that we are investigating, are large contributors of total cancer risk in the community, and there's really not very much information about it. So this work will get into some details, some specifics about those two pollutants. This grant provides the resources to conduct really important work, to identify sources and then improve air quality and health in the community. We're going to do this work alongside and together in partnership, as the health department always does, with the community, with local environmental grassroots groups like Air Alliance and Houston Wilderness, and neighborhood groups like the Botanic Gardens, as well as students from Milby High School and Chavez High School, with the support of council members like Councilmember Gallegos. And we're also going to have help from national environmental partners, Environmental Defense Fund and Environmental Integrity Project. So it's a logistics project in addition to some great work, but these partners that we've worked with in the past and new partners we're working with going forward, we're hoping for really great changes. The monitoring effort will provide really granular information of the sources in the neighborhoods and the surrounding areas. The information is going to be used, not just monitored, we're going to use this information. It's going to be used to evaluate exactly where the elevated concentrations originate and on a very granular level compared to the network of monitors that we have out there right now. And we're going to provide data for regulators to compare against fence line monitoring and use in the evaluation of the effectiveness of fence line monitoring. And this data should provide a baseline of concentration levels prior to the Texas petrochemical plant expansion. So this will be really important to see if the expansion increases concentrations in the neighborhood. So basically we're going to do two kinds of monitoring. We're going to do a community driven route monitoring, where we put equipment on our electric vehicles and drive in the neighborhood to really understand where the sources are coming from. And then we're also going to use passive fixed monitors. We're going to have one here at the Botanic Gardens, and the rest of them will be in residents around the source area in their homes. So we'll have residents participating and have them in their homes. So with the support of Councilmember Gallegos and the Environmental Defense Fund, we plan through this grant to further the city's Environmental Youth Council efforts. With that hiring of interns from Milby and Cesar Chavez, we plan to give them hands-on experience, not just talking experience, not just schoolroom experience, but hands-on experience in monitoring. With Air Alliance Houston, we will train community members to become air quality ambassadors through their Air Quality Ambassador program, and that allows community members to guide community members on stakeholders. As well as hosting one of the fixed site monitors here at the Botanic Gardens, the Botanic Gardens will support Air Alliance in conducting educational activities from this hub. And that would help them understand, people coming through into the neighborhood, about the emission sources that these communities are experiencing. And then Environmental Integrity Project will advise the community and stakeholders regarding regulatory changes that could be made to reduce air pollution. So we'll be monitoring, we'll identify these sources, and then we go to Environmental Integrity Project, which is made up of environmental lawyers to help us understand what regulations and what changes can be made and help us with those recommendations. And then we're also partnering with Houston Wilderness, who we've partnered with many times in the past. They will educate the community on Houston's Super Tree program, where native trees remove air pollution and provide ecosystem services such as carbon sequestration, heat reduction, and flood mitigation. And Houston Wilderness will lead the official project kickoff in the community with a super tree planting alongside of all of our partners on November 3rd, which happens to be Texas Arbor Day. So this project will not be possible and really wouldn't be effective without our partners and all the work that they will contribute alongside of the health department. And so for that, we want to thank the community partners and all the individuals in this neighborhood for supporting us, and EPA for providing us with this really important opportunity that we hope is just the beginning of more changes for the better for these environmental justice community. So thank you to everybody to help get the project off the ground, and we look forward to positive change. Thank you.
I want to thank the administrator for doing this, because I do this on behalf of the thousands of people who live in Sunnyside, which is also impacted by the project. It's important to note that Sunnyside has had multiple landfills, rock crushing company. Sunnyside became a dumping ground, and this is going to help us to improve the quality of life for the people in Sunnyside as well. So thank you very much. I want to make sure that that's in the record. Thank you.
Once again, thank you to our congressional delegation from the city of Houston, Congresswoman Garcia, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee, and Congressman Al Green. Thank you for your support. Again, this is a partnership with Houston Air Alliance and the Healthy Ports, Healthy Communities, and many other organizations. So this is something that was desperately needed, and I want to thank Dr. Nance for the funding. And also Dr. Hopkins, again, excited that we're going to have interns from Chavez High School and Milby High School that will be monitoring and learning a career at the same time. So thank you everyone for being here, and again, thank you to everyone that made this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we're going to do a couple questions real quick. Just have a few minutes.
No, I haven't.
Well, you know, I'm a lawyer, don't worry.
I have actually Friday, but I still look good.
All right.
Wires and stuff too.
Hi, good afternoon, y'all. A lot of great information here. If y'all could just really maybe sum up, what's going to be the biggest impact or change that Houstonians will see from this grant? Because overall, like we always think, getting a grant is great, but what kind of impact or change are they going to see to the day-to-day?
I'm going to say it.
Let me just start.
Well, come to the microphone.
Okay.
Identify yourself as the choose here.
I'm Earthia Nance, Regional Administrator of the EPA. Appreciate the question. What is the biggest change that people will see? In terms of knowledge, understanding what people breathe is the biggest change. The current system that we have in this country uses regional monitors. And those regional monitors take a large average. But it turns out that inside that region there are hot spots. Sometimes we call them fence line communities or overburdened communities or vulnerable communities, but they have more pollution than that average. And because we've never been able to measure that, this project will, in one of the most important areas in the country, will give us an idea about what people are breathing inside their community.
I think she hit it on the opposite. She said it will deal with the hot spots. So let me give you all a perfect example. The congressman talked about this rock crushing groups. We went to a TCEQ hearing on a cement rock crushing group that we thought, of course, was too close to a school. When they read the environmental report, they had used the average of a monitor from Galena Park, probably 30 miles away. You know, people want to know, when I take my child to school, is it safe? They worry about guns, but they also worry about rock crushing plants. They worry about the landfills. They worry about any environmental issue that can hurt their child. So that's why it's important to focus, like we are with this grant, on Milby and Chavez, and making sure that we're getting to the spots that matter most to the communities. And they're going to see the difference, because we do have a lot of monitors, but it's a huge region, and we really need one as close as your grocery store, so that we can all know, especially around schools, hospitals, and mind you, churches.
Well, I am grateful for the president making sure that Houston is not left behind. Here's what I hope to see. I think that this will provide us the empirical evidence that we need in Congress to help our various communities here in Houston. The empirical evidence such that we can take the necessary steps to remediate the damages that have occurred over the decades. Remember, Sunnyside was a thriving community. Sunnyside was moving up, but with landfills, rock crushing companies, big trucks coming in and out, it became a dumping ground. And as a result, property values went down. As a result, health care is not as good. People don't have the same level of health, I should say, that we have in other parts of the city. So my hope is that we'll get the empirical evidence we need to take this back to President Biden and the Congress and let people know what remediation should be done, so that we can bring the dollars home, tax dollars home, to remediate these circumstances that the citizens who live in the neighborhood did not create.
And also, I'd like to add, like Dr. Hopkins said, this is just adding to what we have now in regards to monitors. I know that working with Commissioner Adrian Garcia a couple of years ago, he ended up placing a monitor at Hartman Park there in Manchester, which is right at the fence line with Valero. So this is just adding more monitors, which of course is going to benefit our communities. So thank you.
Anybody else? She's got one.
Yeah, I was wondering, kind of in terms of the specifics, if you know kind of how many monitors this will contribute to adding, and also when those are going to be up and running.
Well, the actual monitoring will begin in January, and we're taking the fall to work with our community partners and identify the students that are going to help with that, and also planning, and of course the tree planting kickoff. And we will have 9 locations that are the fixed site monitors that I talked about, but again, we will do the driving, which is important for really identifying where the sources are coming from. And it's a 3-year project, so.
Captain, one of my questions. The other was, what types, you're speaking about recourses for remediation, what types, as an example, I don't know yet if you access those, but what do you expect to actually ask for if you do find elevated levels?
No, I can help you with that answer. Thank you very much. And by the way, I'm here to support what's happening in this community. Over on the north side, there was a Whispering Pines sanitary landfill right near Smiley High School. We've had other landfills around the city. I'm here for this community too. My congressional district comes right up to this one, so I'm very much concerned about what's happening here.
We're neighbors.
We are neighbors, but more than that, we're friends. Here is the point. What we're doing with the Sunnyside Solar Farm, we can do with others. Those landfills can be used for other purposes, and that's what we'd like to do. Remediate and use for other purposes, the landfills. The Sunnyside Solar Farm is a preeminent example of how a dump can become a means by which we can heat our homes, by which jobs will be created. We have $750,000 of tax dollars going into that project from the federal government that Congresswoman Garcia and I were able to secure. So that is an important aspect of it. But the other is, some of these landfills still have not been properly remediated, in the sense that they have not been segregated from the rest of the soil so that we don't have concerns about what's happening to the water. We want to make sure that the quality of the air is good, but we also want to make sure that the water beneath the landfills is not being contaminated with some of the garbage that's been disposed in these landfills. I think that there are many things that we can do to remediate. This is the genesis of that process. The revelations will come after we get the empirical evidence.
For example, did you find elevated levels of toxic air toxins around the Texas petrochemical plant? What does that mean? Does that mean anything in particular for the expansion, or are there any things that can be held, or is it more?
Let me do a short. I'll do a short answer followed by Dr. Hopkins. The EPA, federal regulating, what we do is that every 5 years we review the permits that the state gives the plants to operate. And in our review of the permits, any updated information is taken into account.
Okay, so you got me real excited, but I'll try to be brief. Exactly what Dr. Nance said, but if we find elevated concentrations, we would report them to EPA, we report them with TCQ. This is a normal process for the Houston Health Department with the Bureau of Pollution Control and Prevention. And there, depending on what it is, there could be enforcement action. But we want a long-term fix. We want regulation change, understanding what fence line monitoring does. That's something that people advocate for, but how good is it? That kind of thing. Because, we can go after certain events and upsets, and that's important, but really long-term change of lower concentrations and understanding that the control devices on these facilities are actually working as they should. But I just want to add one other thing. This is what's amazing about what I'm thinking of as the new EPA. The new EPA with this wonderful funding and the holistic view that they have of the environment. They've really encouraged local governments to think broadly. And so when we think of environmental justice, we don't think of as, I believe that that we just heard about Al Green talking about, the air, the water, whatever. We think about if this is an environmental justice challenge community and they really have had impacts from pollution, there's a chain effect, not just the roads. We're talking if you have air pollution, you may have more asthma attacks. You can't sit in your desk at school. If you have a problem in your community, like we did see in the 5th Ward, we believe that it affected this thriving community, as we were hearing about Sunnyside. We believe that it could have been one of the causes for increased crime rate, for children not being able to make it to school, unemployed, people taking care of their family members because they're sick. So EPA has really encouraged us to think about environmental justice as not just solving that pollution problem, but actually that is just one in a chain of things, and we need to look at the cumulative impacts and really address the community. As we do in the health department, we often look in a geographic area and try to fix everything within that area. And so the grants coming up, we've submitted a couple, we're still hearing on, there's more money coming out. We're thinking that's why we need the partnership. This isn't something the city could do alone, ever. So we have to work with our partners to really we have the chance, we have the funding, well, at least we have the potential to have the funding to make the biggest change that we could ever see, given this huge amount of support coming from, initiated by EPA.
Last question. Just one last question, please.
Could any of y'all talk about the impact that this grant is going to have on a race and equity level?
On a what level?
A race and equity level, as in like communities of color and the impact it might have in marginalized communities?
Well, keeping it simple, this is the reason for the grant, is to work on the environmental justice communities, and that's why we're here today, because this is the start. And the president has been very committed to equity, not just in these grants, but in the whole of government across the board, in every program that we passed during the pandemic, the infrastructure bill, all of it. So this is to help those communities most impacted, and it's because we're there, as the congressman said. When they build these plants and where they build these facilities, they usually go to communities of color. They just do. So it's not like someone saying, oh, we're going to go over there because we want to help the blacks and browns. It's that we are the ones that are there. So it is important to know that this grant is specifically to address those injustices and to identify the challenges and later do the remediation. And as I said before, this is not the first of it. We will try to bring more dollars home.
And I'll add this in closing, that businesses have to be good neighbors. This is an effort also that can cause us to be able to make sure that these businesses that locate, and a landfill operator is a business, a rock crushing company is a business, they have to be good neighbors. We should not find, as we have found in the Sunnyside area, cars that have been covered with pollution because the dust, the pollution from these plants. There was a young man that drowned at a landfill in Sunnyside. That shouldn't happen. So they have to be good neighbors. And this is means by which we can explain to them what they can do to be better neighbors.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for having us.
Once you step on the, we have video